beginning, I think we would take any job that came in because we thought revenue was revenue, but you learn very quickly that not all revenue is good revenue.
Like attic cleanouts. Yeah.
So figure out what it is you want to do, who you want to be, how you want to deliver that service, who your client is, and avoid the rest.
What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Boardroom Buzz, here with the blue-collar twins, Jeremy and Jason Giulio. Today's guests are two people who prove that they can build an incredible business and incredible marriage at the same time. They took a family legacy in pest control, started a company from the basement of their home in 2010, and over the last 15 years have grown Thomas Pest Services into one of the premier independent pest control companies in New York. They're known for their culture, their commitment to their team, and their relentless focus on customer service. Bill and Sarah, welcome to the Boardroom Buzz.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Guys, we are super excited to have you guys on. You guys have an amazing story. Why don't we get started with you guys telling us how you guys got into the world of pest control?
That's kind of an interesting story and a point. You know, Sarah's family has spent their entire career since the late 40s in pest control, with her grandfather having a company, selling that off, her uncle starting a company. Unfortunately, he had passed and that company got sold off. And her father went into business after being an investigator for the misuse of pesticides for the state of New York. Worked there for a while. Sarah worked for the company. I had went down there, worked for the company. That's where I met Sarah. He got to the point where he was ready to sell his organization. And, you know, we had two choices. It's either stay on and see what our career looked like in the orchid world, or move back up north, of his territory and start our own company. You know, so he helped us get started with that, 15 years ago by buying a small company, interesting company, but we took it and scaled from there.
So you guys bought Thomas Pest Services?
We bought a small company. It was called, Hometown Pest Control.
Yes. Yep.
So her father's company was Craig Thomas Pest Control, and we wanted to, kind of work a little bit off the name and pay homage to the family heritage in pest control. So that's where we went with Thomas Pest Services.
And Orkin acquired them?
Orkin acquired Craig Thomas Pest Control, yeah.
Right. And you, Bill, worked for Sarah's dad.
I did work for Craig Thomas Pest Control, for a few years.
The technician, as a salesman?
I did a lot of sales for them, and then prior to that, I worked for another company doing sales as well.
He was Dad's first salesperson ever.
Yeah, so I have spent a good chunk of my career doing pest control sales, and ultimately, when we started the company, had to transition to the operational side, learn how to kill the bugs too, not just talk about it. So that was a fun one. I still remember our first sale. I get out there, we sell a carpenter ant job, a feeder dam road in Glens Falls. I'll never forget this house, and my background was easy to sell it, so I get in there, I'm like, holy crap, what do I do now? Because I actually got to kill him, and I got no clue what I'm doing.
And I told him, you better figure it out.
Yeah, of course.
But I find if you talk about it for 10 years, figuring out how to actually apply it it's a little challenging, but you got the basics down. You've talked about it for so long, you just got to go do what you say you do.
Right. I'm always interested in, so yesterday I was on a long bike ride, and I see this kid on a young gentleman on a Segway. I'm like, I know exactly who this is. He's a door-to-door guy. And I pull up next to him, I introduce myself, and he's like, I was just talking about you and your brother about our old company Last Bite, and we just had this nice long conversation. But he was telling me, well, he's very good at sales, but he wants to eventually, branch off and start his own business. My point to him was, I think sales is like the number one thing like everybody wants. Like if you could sell, or if you have a team that can sell, I feel like everything else is easy outside of like training and finding a good technician. But if without sales, you have no business. Would you say that, having that sales experience is crucial or helped a lot with getting the business started and going?
Yeah, I think it's everything, because it's the only way you're ever going to scale is to be able to have that growth mindset and be able to develop other salespeople underneath you. This industry is interesting in the fact that I think you could always find operational guys. It's a massive industry, and it's probably 90% technical facing. So going out there to find those guys is a lot easier than it is to find that dynamic sales guy that's really going to take you to the next level. Mm-hmm. And even on commission based, nobody's going to have the passion you do to really grow and scale that company.
Mm-hmm. Do you do most of your sales currently?
No, I mean, we have a team of 5 outside sales reps and 4 inside sales reps. But, I still do some stuff with them, from strategy training and ongoing stuff with role playing twice a week, and help keep them motivated to push forward.
What do you find motivates them? Is it just pay and different incentives? How do you motivate them?
I think in today's world, everything's different for every sales rep. I mean, most of them are money driven. A few of them are time driven, that they want some extra extra time in the winter, which, works for us too. But, they have a pretty aggressive commission package that pays based on what we're looking to acquire from a customer standpoint. So of course we're always willing to pay more for that recurring sale than we are for the one-time sales, which is huge. And then it's just a lot of praise. We go back, we review numbers daily. At the end of each day, we talk about the objections they handled, how they can handle those a little bit different. And then we just constantly give feedback, once a week where they're at, how they're stack ranking against their peers for both the inside and the outside team. And then we recap the activities and how the team performed as a whole at the end of the month, just so they get to see, what all their efforts is going towards, what our company goals are versus how they helped us achieve them.
So let's rewind a little bit and get back to where you guys started.
Before that, I want to. You mentioned something about was it your father who did the investigation work for the state of New York? That sounds like a pretty cool business. So
Yeah,
what was that like?
Well, so when he had the state job, so he would investigate, like Bill said, the misuse of pesticides. And when he decided to leave the state is when he opened his company. But it's interesting because he was kind of the flip side of that. So he was investigating companies misusing, and then he went into business using products.
But I'm sure when he did it absolutely the right way. He wasn't misusing anything.
Oh,
He was
gosh.
professional.
Yeah,
at it.
100%.
Trust
The
me,
labels
he
of law. He made sure everybody knew that.
Yeah.
He loved a good time going out, finding a truck with an open sprayer that wasn't labeled or something that was right up his alley. And Bill's actually kind of taken that approach a little bit, kind of, stealing maybe a piece of equipment that's not labeled properly or something, and they'll find out.
I could tell you that's still in his heart because, he lives part-time in Florida, in the winters, and when he gets his service tickets from them, he'll go through and investigate them, and he's willing to send his company all the things that are technically wrong with their service ticket.
Luckily, he doesn't do that with ours when we service his property up here, so I
we
guess
also
we're doing
got
something
smart.
right.
We send a service ticket to his wife so he doesn't get to see it.
That's great. One of the things is like in the state of New Jersey, I'm not sure about New York, but you see people who are not compliant, people who are treating with pesticides that have never, taken any type of classes or have any type of license. And it's really unfair to the people who are doing the right thing. And obviously, they're doing a wrong job. And it's unsafe.
Very much so. I mean, New York is not much different than New Jersey. In fact, we may be a little bit stricter than you guys, but probably pretty similar in some of those senses.
With mosquito spraying, are you allowed to spray like pesticides, or is it just organic?
Well,
right?
you can. This is where it gets a little finicky in New York. So we do it all with
Organic.
or we do all organic. So I think we use Ecovia MT on it, and we've had pretty good results with it. But using conventional comes down county to county. So every county allows you to use conventional products for those applications, but certain counties require neighbor notification, where you have to notify every surrounding neighbor 24 hours in advance of that application, and that sounds like
how do you do that?
nightmare.
Sounds like a pain in the ass.
Pretty much. That's why we don't.
It's
we
fun
get
enough
around
just
it.
letting the customers know you're coming, let alone the neighbors too.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I could see why that's important. I mean, we feel the calls daily of, drift and overspray from neighbors and stuff. It's just very intrusive. So, implementing that, it's fair. Who wants to go in their backyard,
it's just challenging. And unfortunately with ticking mosquitoes, it's probably one of the most visual applications we make. Mm-hmm. You got this big, loud gas-powered sprayer going, and then you got this big fog coming out of it. So if I didn't know, I'd probably be saying, what the heck is going on?
Yeah, right. Exactly. So the first acquisition that kind of got you guys into pest control, well, on your own, what did that look like? Was it, 100K business you bought, 50 customers? What was that like?
Yeah, I mean, they were doing probably about $60,000 in revenue.
Maybe 2 weeks worth of full
Not
route.
even 2 weeks full route. So very little route work. But they had a customer base, which we still have some of those people on annual exterior programs, not many of them. But he was an interesting guy. I was sitting up there one day with him, trying to learn some of the commercial clients before we took over. And we were done at 10 o'clock in the morning. He got a phone call and he said, no, we're not accepting new customers. And from me, coming from a sales standpoint, I'm looking at my watch and it's 10 o'clock in the morning. We got nothing to do. And you're saying no.
Yeah.
It's the
Why did
same
he say
guy.
no? What was his reasoning?
I don't think he wanted to work. I mean, when he took the company over from his uncle, they were doing about $250,000 a year, and he shrunk it down to 60.
Yeah.
So I just think, it was just all mindset.
Would you do that again? Would you make that acquisition to kind of jumpstart you guys, or would
if we were going into a completely different territory, I probably would, because I think it's hard to penetrate a market without something to at least support
a base,
a single technician. So it was good. I mean, we got the entire company base on index cards. We ended up saving a little bit of money last minute because he threw a cigar out in the back of his truck and lit half the index cards on fire.
No way.
Yeah, I mean, it was.
So that tells
it was
you what kind of guy he was.
So you guys started your operation in the basement of your house?
We did.
Yeah.
What did that look like?
I mean, so we rented a house to get started, and I was in the basement, probably roughly 12 hours a day, fielding calls, selling, doing all the admin work, and Bill was out selling, servicing, doing whatever it took to start growing.
And at what point?
You guys know, as you get home 7 o'clock at night, now you're trying to fix sprayers as you get a guy or two in, and it was a grind.
And at what point were you like, all right, like the customers started rolling in? What point of your journey were you like, all right, we're starting to do well for ourselves?
I mean, probably year 2, we started seeing a little bit of growth, a lot more growth as we started getting a little brand recognition. But I think, our true growth came when COVID hit. I think we grew $1 million that year, and we haven't looked back since. It's been $1 million to $1.5 million a year ever since.
Oh, wow.
So what are you doing differently than what are you doing different than other pest control companies in your area?
I think we really know who we are, and that plays as just a ripple effect throughout the business, in the sense of, we took on right at the tail end of 2020, we jumped into the Entrepreneurial Operating System, EOS, and I think with COVID and that just really kind of uprooted our trajectory, because we really figured out, like I said, who we are. So we know our core values, and we do everything around our core values, from hiring, firing, praise. And then we also know our mission as a company. We know who our target market are, and just, I really think that has helped us, because it just gives us that guiding light and that beacon, and everything revolves around those items. So it's easier to make decisions, create processes. And it's just been, I think it's been a game changer in our business. Wouldn't you agree?
I do. And I think it also forced me to let go of some things,
Yeah.
So at the time I was probably sitting at the top of every one of those seats, but this forced me to go out there and find, good operational people, good sales leaders, good customer service folks, financial people. And, now I don't have to be everything to everybody, and I think it's probably the greatest lesson I learned is you got to hire people that are smarter than you to run certain departments. So now we're just very processed, and we have a dynamic leadership team that's just really good at what they do. And it really helps drive these departments forward.
Helps me stay in my lane too, which, as Bill would say, is hard to do, but I try.
So you mentioned, Sarah, who you are. Who are you guys as a business?
So we as a company, we focus on relationship-based pest control, which really means not just going out doing service after service, trying to get those numbers up. We really care about our customers and making a difference in the community. So, we are relationship, the technicians, they know that if something's going on with a customer, to submit this form that we have where we will write handwritten notes if a customer's got a graduation, a death in the family, a new baby. We really try to tailor the service around the customer's needs. If the customer wants X, Y, and Z, and, it's not too nitty gritty, because we also have to be able to scale. But, if a customer wants a certain service on a certain day because it's easier for them, we would just want to be easy to do business with. And on the flip side, we know who we are, which makes us different. So how I always kind of tell new people, when someone rolls up at the gas station and says, why choose Thomas? It's not because we're third generation. It's not because we have a, clean truck. It's because of 3 things. Our company uniques are we treat little things like big things. So that may mean, going out to a customer's home who's complaining for the 3rd time about spiders, but they might be petrified of spiders. So we're going to treat those little spiders as a big thing. Number 2 is we give back. So we're very active in the community. March is big for us for cerebral palsy awareness month. And then we also, additionally this year, have kind of leaned into kids and pets. So we're doing things revolving around that with backpack giveaways and local SPCAs and Humane Society. They're all different around here. That's why it gets me flubbed up. And then lastly is give back, and oh my goodness.
We're really good, and what we want to focus on is making sure that we tell you what you need to hear.
There you
what
go.
You want to hear. So I think too many times, I see a lot of companies, not just in the pest control space, but, they tailor those conversations around trying to make the customer happy, when I think it's important to make sure that we have that open, honest conversation with them and tell them what they need to hear, not necessarily what they want to hear. And we take that model right into our team, so we're not going to build you up. We're going to have those good conversations to tell you what you need to hear so you can get better.
That goes a long way. You guys remind me a lot of how we used to run our business Last Bite, treating the little things like the big things. You mentioned, if someone wants to be serviced one day and you can accommodate that, you're going to try and accommodate that. A lot of these big companies, they're not going to do that for them, right? So that makes a big difference.
I think the communication.
And you got to always remember too, what they're calling in with may seem like a really small problem to them, but it's, to us, but it's a big problem to them. And we need to honor that.
Right.
Because they're paying us and investing a lot of money into our services to protect our home health and property. We want to make sure that that feels important to them.
So I love the fact that you guys give back to the community. I preach that a lot. It seems like you're very active in the community, and you picked I guess a cause, cerebral palsy. Why did you choose cerebral palsy?
Yeah, so we decided to do that because our daughter actually has CP. And when we found out she did, there was nothing in the community in our area that had anything to do with CP. So as, first of all, first-time parents, young parents, we had Riley on the younger side, early 20s. We just felt that we had this platform. Why not try to make a difference? And we, year after year in March, have really upped the ante and really let it be known in the community that we are here to raise awareness for cerebral palsy. Like this March, we actually partnered with a local brewery and they made a beer called Riley's Cool Kick with jalapeno and cucumber.
Wow,
And
that's awesome.
It was awesome. So we were able to donate around $3,000 to a local organization who helps children, adults with disabilities get means that they need. So it could be like an iPad to speak, or it could be a wheelchair. So all the money that we raise every year, our goal is to keep it local. And we are continuing to raise awareness. I mean, we have, I think, close to 5 employees with direct family members with CP. And every year I continuously get people who reach out on Instagram, Facebook saying, like, my son has CP, thank you. And that just means everything. And that's the most fulfilling part of it, because people realize what we're doing and they notice.
That's great. I love that.
I think we've been blessed with a lot of success from these communities. So it's really our duty to give back to those communities who have really willing to give us the opportunity to service them. The next phase of Give Back that we started this year is we created a nonprofit called Project T, the Thomas Way. And the goal with this is to raise money and kind of have this kitty of money so we can use that to give back to single mothers, veterans organizations, or really just anybody in our service territory that has a pest issue but doesn't have the financial means to take care of it. Because our job is not just to provide pest-free living for those that can afford it. It's to provide it for those who can't afford it as well. So we're really excited to get that launched and off the ground. It's kind of been on my vision board for the last
a long
9
time.
years. So I'm excited to start raising some money and being able to give back to local people that have pest issues that just can't afford to take care of them.
That's great. I'd love to see your vision board. What's on your vision board?
That was probably a big one. I think the other big piece is a Thomas Pest plane. She thinks I'm nuts.
Yeah. Luckily, I did cross the boat.
Pest what? What was it?
A plane.
Oh, a plane.
A Thomas
Awesome.
Pest plane. Yeah.
Like for agriculture, just a plane with Thomas Pest on it, or yeah.
Yeah, and I do that because as we continue to scale, we want to be able to bring this thing to multiple states and really spread out our reach of where we're going. And the plane just makes travel between.
It's not just that though. He secretly just wants to be able to get to Buffalo in less than 4.5 hours that it takes us to drive there to go to Buffalo Bills games. So don't worry, there is an underlying, little personal motive there that he's not letting you on to.
Oh, he's a Bill Mafia guy, right?
Go Bills.
Is that what they call him?
That might be the third and final thing on my vision board left, is become the official sponsor of the Buffalo Bills from a pest control standpoint.
Yeah.
Oh, Audrey's going to kill you for that.
I love it because it's going to force us to scale to a level that we could afford to be able to do something like that. So I know it's, on paper it sounds silly, but it's just one of those things that I think the revenue has to be there.
It's not silly. It's not silly. I know several operators that have gotten their pilot license to cut the commute down in half for them to kind of go to the other location. So it's not crazy. So that's great.
When I say
And then
plane, I mean plane, not like a G650.
no, yeah. These guys have like, what do they call Cessnas
little
or
biplanes,
Yeah, little
right?
Cessnas, stuff
Yeah.
like that. I mean, you can get
Yeah.
into some of these things, these little Pipers, relatively inexpensive. I mean, don't get me wrong, the G650 would be cool too, but I think that's a little unattainable.
Yeah, these planes are like 50 years old, 40 years old. Some of these guys, the ones that they buy them for like 80, 100 grand or whatever, and then
Don't tell her that. You're not helping my case here.
No, we need something new, reliable.
Yeah.
So, husband and wife dynamic. I need to hear more about that. How is that? I mean, I worked with my twin brother, which was amazing. We both shared our own roles. And what is it like working with your significant other? Do you guys keep work at work? Do you guys talk about work at home? Is there a shut off? Give me a little bit more about that.
There's no shut off. It's
Like,
tough.
you're
'Cause, I
leaving
mean,
the office, you're like, hey, listen, we are not talking about this when we leave the office.
And who's having the conversation of who's like bringing it up? Who's saying let's not talk about this right now? Who's the driving factor of these conversations?
Well, it's tough because Sarah works from home a lot of days, as we balance, running a business, operating this thing, and kids. So she spends a lot of time here at the house, and then I work mostly in the office with the leadership team. So it's like a lot of times during the day, there's not a whole lot of communication between us. So it's like the only time we have to recap our days and how things went would
On the ride home.
be the ride home or at dinner. So unfortunately, it's hard not to bring that home when it's such a big piece of our lives.
Yeah, you guys wake up in the morning and be like, I could not stop thinking about XYZ. You know?
It's tough. I mean, mornings are crazy. He goes to the gym, I work out all before 6 o'clock in the morning, get the kids off. We kind of sometimes talk on the way in, but it's been interesting. A lot of people, especially like outside employees that come in to work for us, are actually shocked at our dynamic. For example, I think our CFO that just came to us, his previous employer, the husband and wife would yell at each other, and we've never done that. I mean, we obviously have had our disagreements, but if you can't tell, we're very lighthearted and, try not to take life too seriously and enjoy things. So, we do have a very humorous relationship in the sense if you've seen any of our reels on social media, he's usually the one trying to tell me to calm down. He calls me sometimes the hurricane when I come to the office because I'm recording reels or talking to people, and that's why I don't get anything done when I go to the office because I'm just...
Or any of the team get anything done.
No, I let them get their work done. But, I like to, as they call me like the mama bee, I like to just to touch, feel, hug everyone. And
We keep telling her she can't touch the employees, like HR rules against that.
well, my sister's on maternity leave right now and she is HR. So, it's free reign, right? So
I like that though. I think it's your business and you're passionate about it, and I understand why Bill would say that. But like, I would go in my office and give everyone hugs, and that's just how we were. We're passionate and loving people. But if it wasn't working or something else, like it could create problems.
100%. I'll tell you this, like when we first started, she started baking like birthday treats for the employees on her birthday. And I thought this is going to be something that, we get to 8-10 people, she'd stop, but we're 70 deep and she's still doing it.
Good for you.
So every employee, except for me, gets a hand-baked treat for their birthday.
Yeah, you got to make those celebrations. We would celebrate everybody's birthday.
Bill, do you see the importance of that, or is it something you feel like is...
yeah.
Okay.
No,
okay.
100%. Yeah. It's really good. I mean, it's really helped our culture a lot. I think last year we ended up getting the Culture Catalyst Award through National Pest Management Association for the first year that they offered it. So I think it's just really a testament.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, 4 years in a row, we've gotten best places to work in the Capital District. So I think these are all the little things that go into it and creating that environment that's welcoming to people. At least the people that fit our core values. We also want to be
What's your
intentional
interview
about
process like? You mentioned the core values, and I mean, how many employees do you have? You said 70, 80?
that. Just over 70.
I think we just hit 73 yesterday
74,
or
yeah, somewhere.
74 yesterday.
Yeah, so our interview process is unique, right? So people will come in, if the resume looks like it'll fit, they do a screening interview with Megan, Sarah's sister, who runs our HR, and she is focused solely on core values, like are they a fit for the organization? If they get past her and they feel like they're going to fit the organization as a whole, they'll go down to the department head that will start drilling drilling in a little bit more on the skill sets and can they actually perform this position. But they've already gotten the green light from HR saying, you need one technician. Here's 4 candidates that have met the quality and the core value testing. Interview them and pick your teammate.
Mm-hmm. Back to the two of you. Who do you guys hold each other accountable for different things, or is that becoming?
We're married. I'm held accountable for everything.
Let's just say he got an email since he's overseeing the sales department a little bit. I went through because I am sit in the marketing seat. So don't worry, he already got an email this morning that said, we don't do this. Why did we blow this lead? So don't worry. I make sure he, that's got to keep him. Someone's got to hold him accountable. So, it's going to be me or my daughter. My daughter's actually starting to do it a little bit, which is actually, I just sit back and laugh, but I don't say too much.
Sorry, you said you sit in the marketing seat, but it sounds like, were you reviewing sales calls or is that what you were doing?
Yeah, so we use Voice for Pest for our phone system, and they have a product called X-Ray, which kind of will grade the calls, tell them if they're agreeable, disagreeable, if there's any potential cancels. It will also show me calls that were connected, that were qualified. If they were not connected, what happened? Were they out of area? Were they competitor? Do we not offer that service? So I go through every morning and just scan that to see, Monday, for example, we got 3 calls for Vermont and 2 for Massachusetts. And I was like, that's odd. So I went to my partner, Lizard, who does my pay-per-click and say management. And I said, make sure we don't have any ads targeting those states because we're obviously, it could be organic for all I know, but we could be paying. So I just try to stay on top of different things like that to make sure we're using our budget wisely.
Mm-hmm. It sounds like this is a pretty useful tool, something you'd recommend?
Yeah, X-Ray just went through kind of a revamp in the past maybe 6 months, and I will only look at it really from the marketing perspective, but Lucas, who runs our partner experience team, has found it tremendously helpful.
It gives you a really good snapshot of how your team's performing without having to listen to every call. In fact, Lucas is, he's an amazing leader, but he's actually got his team looking at X-Ray every day to kind of review how their day prior went and figure out where they need to make some changes and almost self-correct, all on him to determine that. And I think when you get your team to hold themselves accountable and start self-correcting, that's pretty powerful.
For sure. I immediately just kind of envision myself reviewing my own thing, and if it's scale 1 to 5 and I'm getting like 2s or 3s, I'm like, hey, what's going on here, right? Let me listen to this, or let me look at some of these recommendations. Are they giving recommendations, the AI?
Yeah. They don't give recommendations, but they, can give you an analysis, and we kind of have even taken it a step further that we export it to AI, and AI gives us a daily snapshot, like a 2 to 3 page snapshot, saying, out of the 50 calls the sales team got today, they were able to convert 30 of them, 20 they didn't. And then Lucas's team, who does the customer service, here were the 5 calls that you may want to follow up on because these customers were not happy. So it kind of has taken the information that's already kind of high level, but takes it even higher. That gives us just a snapshot of what we need to know as a leadership team and if there's anything that we need to act on.
So it gives you 2 things. So it gives you some good coaching opportunities to help mitigate those mistakes moving forward, but it also gives you an opportunity to see that you had a disagreeable conversation and get somebody, with some leadership experience or authority in the organization to call that customer and right that situation before it turns into a cancellation.
What's your leadership team look like?
Yes, we're broke out, from the U.S. standpoint. I sit in a visionary seat. For underneath me is Sean. So Sean's our integrator, so really our COO of operations. And then reporting to him would be, Megan in employee experience or HR. We have Matt, who is our CFO, Lucas, who oversees partner experience and
customer service. And then we have, Paul in operations.
In operations. And then do you have team leaders of,
Yeah, so underneath operations, you have, I think at this point we have 5 service supervisors managing the service team.
And what about employees that have been with you for a long time? Do they I'm matriculate up, and or do you hire outside for the most part?
It all depends on a position. I'd say 90% of the time we hire from within, unless it's like one of those core leadership positions. Like we brought Matt in. There was no way you're bringing somebody from within to be a CFO. I mean, that is an outside hire. Sean to run operations in the company was an outside hire. But we try to do everything we can in-house to promote people up and give them really that pathway forward.
What was the first real hire that was like, all right, this is super helpful and really helping us? Like, kind of, was it the CFO or COO?
No, the CFO is pretty new because I mean I was sitting in the finance seat and then he took over in April, and it was one of those things that I'm pretty good with numbers, but it was starting to get a little outside of my comfort level from a self-taught money guy. But I think the first big hire that we had was probably a dynamic service manager at the time. He's no longer with us, but that really allowed me to get out of leading technicians and really focusing on growing the business a little bit more.
Right, that's huge, right?
Yeah.
Like getting outside of, taking yourself outside of a truck, and was that at that time were you doing sales and just like operational stuff?
I was doing everything.
Everything.
Yeah.
And how much more did your business grow after you did that? Because a lot of people are really afraid to make that move. Hey, listen, I'm gonna have to now pay this manager $100,000 salary. I could be keeping it in my pocket if I do this. But you hire this guy, and it just helps you really focus on the business and growing the business.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen crazy growth anytime one of us has shed responsibility to the organization. So I really would love to get to a point where I have no daily responsibility to the the running of the organization and just driving things forward.
Hey, listen, it's 9:30 right now on a hot July day, and you guys are on the Boardroom Buzz with us. So it sounds like you guys are doing good things right now.
We're trying.
And we're learning. That's the big thing is I think we learn from our mistakes, we adapt, and make sure that they don't happen again.
I mean, like today, how many guys you got on the road? How many guys you have out servicing? You got probably over hundreds of accounts being serviced today. You guys are, I'm sure you guys are obviously doing work, but
I might be doing a little bit more. He does have a golf date later,
Sarah, you don't play golf?
He calls it networking because it's with our insurance broker. So
we got to keep our vendors happy.
For sure. Yeah. Negotiate those prices. I remember we were paying over $100,000 for GL and auto and all that other stuff. It's like, and then you just negotiate. If you don't negotiate, you don't say anything, you'll keep paying it. But if you negotiate a little bit, you have some power.
You got some work to do today then?
It's insane what insurance costs nowadays.
It really is, man.
Especially health insurance. It just seems like every year that's going up 20%.
Oh, you offer your team health care?
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
That's awesome. Good for you guys. I don't think that's typical. That's great. And what about to mitigate a little bit of insurance costs? Do you have cameras in the cars?
Yeah, so all the new trucks this year, I think we brought in 15 trucks this year. They all got cameras, and then we're working on phase implementation on all the other trucks over the course of the next 6 months.
What type of vehicles do you run?
So we've been kind of been around the gamut trying different things, but we landed with Nissan probably about 9 years ago and have been pretty happy with Nissan ever since.
Frontiers.
The Frontiers
for that. Sales are running Rogues.
Okay.
The only thing that's different is leadership teams running Broncos, and then the service supervisors are running Mavericks.
I love the Mavericks for fuel efficiency.
They're great.
They are.
I mean, relatively the same size as Nissans, the Frontiers, right?
Oh, maybe a little smaller.
A little smaller. I think the Frontier is still a little heavier truck.
Okay.
And it all depends. So we have a lot of very rural areas that I think you need a little bit more trucking in the winter with snow and all that.
Four-wheel drive.
Yeah,
you're up in that
get
way.
The Mavericks and all-wheel drive, but they're still a car at the end of the day.
Right.
But they're great for inner city stuff.
So overall, revenue-wise, how big is the company?
So right now we'll be closing this year in probably a little over 10.1 million.
Let's go. That's awesome.
Wow, look at that. Sarah, that's a nice smile.
It is. But I smile because I think it's one of those numbers that you always dream to get. But I still remember when we did our first million, how exciting. And I actually thought when the first million, I was like, oh, this is going to be relief that things might get easier. Well, I was completely wrong on that. But no, 10 million is just one of those milestones.
Yeah, in fact, July, as long as it shapes up the way it should, which I think we're on track right now, even though we're only on the second, will be our first $1 million month, which is really exciting.
That's really...
We'll need some champagne for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you ever imagine back when you were operating out of your basement that you would be a $10 million business?
No. So I always kind of use my father's company as a little bit of a benchmark. So he was in business for 15 years and he sold at, what was it, five-ish?
Yeah, about 5 million.
5 to 6-ish. And, you know, I thought that was incredible. So to now see us surpass that, and my parents always say that they can't, not that they can't believe, but they're so happy that we have been able to surpass them. So to be able to do that, it's incredible. And I mean, we wouldn't be able to do what we do without having such a great team that, you know, makes that happen every day for us. So I think it's more gratitude too than anything.
But I think this also goes back to where we started out with is I think, you know, he came into with a very operational mindset and we came into with a very growth and sales mindset. You guys interview a lot of people that started out door-to-door sales reps. And these are some of the biggest and, you know, fastest growing companies are the ones that have that sales background that really come from sales.
The door-to-door guy I bumped into yesterday, he asked me, he's like, if you could give me like one bit of advice regarding sales, what would it be? And I told him honestly, Bill, you're a sales guy. I am not a salesperson. I can't sell anything. I'm just not. That's not a quality of mine. And my advice to him was just be honest and truthful and transparent as to whatever you are trying to sell. If you had to give the same person advice as to how to be like a solid salesperson or how to do well in sales, what would that advice be?
Yeah, I think it's probably really believing in your offering and understanding that you should not sell based on how you buy. You know, it's our job to give people the opportunities to protect their home health and property and not prejudge what you think they're going to want. So I love selling through options because you may be surprised. Like you may go to a house where you think this guy's got $0 to spend on pest control, but you know, earlier this year, his granddaughter was over, got bit by a tick, got Lyme disease, got very, very sick. So he will spend every last penny he has to make sure it doesn't happen again. And it's our job to at least give him the opportunity to say yes or no to that.
So you ever think about doing door to door?
You know, I've thought about it because I love the concept of how quick you could scale things with it. You know, the challenge is
it's very expensive, isn't it?
It can be, but there's been 2 door-to-door companies in our market, and they have not been well received. I mean, they've been bashed, and I really worry about what that does to the reputation of the brand that we built. You know, I mean, it's taken us 15 years to build the brand to what it is today, and I don't want to ruin that over a little bit of growth.
Yeah, and it sounds to me that you have this organic, not all organic, but you've got marketing spend, but you guys are doing just fine with what you're doing, right?
Exactly. And yeah, I mean, and I think, you know, we also don't need to hit 15 million in the next, you know, year. It's not obviously a goal. So I'd rather stay the course and do what we've been doing and protect the reputation that we do have. Because to Bill's point, they have not been received well. I mean, and the stories from our own team, I think our own team would not be thrilled with us because they've experienced firsthand how they've been treated by the door-to-door people. So it doesn't seem like it fits our culture at the moment.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. I think there's some really good ethical door-to-door guys out there and companies deploying it the right way. You know, unfortunately, some of the bigger ones just get a bad rap because it's all about numbers.
And you acquired your first business. Do you ever think about growing through acquisition?
Yeah, I mean, I've sat down and met with a couple of companies this year that were looking to exit in our market. It's tough because some of these smaller companies just don't align with what we're doing. And they're priced so low that I think it would be very hard to keep 50% of that company while you're trying to up them to your price points. And for what we're paying for, I know what I can acquire that customer for, and it's probably still less. And you know, if we can hit that $1 million to $1.5 million in growth year after year, just doing it through marketing, it's still the best way to do it because you're attracting the ideal client a lot lot more so.
Taking
Right.
the
$45
risk.
client.
Yeah. You mentioned EOS. What are some of your rocks that you got?
Ooh, well, we're actually just coming up on the quarter ending, so we've had some good ones. We had the branch, looking at branch structure, what that looks like as we continue to grow, because we are just open, well, not yet, but we just opened our official third office this month in the Saratoga area, so that's really exciting. So we're exploring branch structure. We had Sean had AI implementing.
Yeah, so
AI.
every quarter we want to implement another AI tool of some sort to help build some efficiencies into the organization. And then I think the other big one was for Lucas, as he really dove in and created our own in-house leadership training program. You know, so anybody that wants to get into supervisor roles or management roles would have the ability to go through this program that we'd offer twice a year. It's a 12-week program that takes them through managing yourself, managing others, the Thomas way. And then once they graduate that, they would be eligible for promotion when seats became available. So I think that was a big, huge one.
Are you using tools like Trainual to do that, or?
We use Trainual. This one was built out separately. Well, there'll be a Trainual component to it. But yeah, I mean, we use Trainual for onboarding. We use Trainual every other week for what we
Training
call Training
Tuesday.
Tuesdays. So we put out some piece of content and training every other Tuesday to help continuously push the team forward and really be better than yesterday, which is another way we live one of those core values.
That's important, man. That's great. So you have Training Tuesdays. Would you block out an hour before they go out, or
no? We
for the
just
day?
release the Trainual video on there, and then they have a week to get it completed.
Okay, so you put it on them to do it.
Yeah. So I mean, I also want to build that accountability, that self accountability into them. Because at the end of the day, I mean, we know these technicians when they come in, and most of the team members are here for life. But if we can get them to come in and leave as a better human, better brother, sister, husband, father, then we all made a little bit of money along the way. I think we've been pretty successful.
Do you have a good retention rate with your technicians?
Yeah, I think for the most part, I mean, we benchmark it year over year. I think we're above industry average, which is really good. This year we've lost a couple, but most of those are within the first 60 days when they just realize that this industry isn't for them, which I get. It's nothing to do with the organization as a whole. It's a tough job. And coming from not having experience, you get into it thinking this is something you could do, and it's just not for you.
AI tools, any that really stand out for you?
Boy, we're a big Tasklet company.
Tasklet AI does a lot for
Taskla?
Tasklet.
Oh,
So
Tasklet.
task and then LET. So our integrator, Sean, he loves Tasklet. I think he puts everything through it but I mean, it's doing everything from grading our calls to even looking at reports and, spitting out data for like schedule adherence. So, our technicians getting to their first stop within the 15-minute window. Are they there for the allotted amount of time? I mean, we are trying to launch Communication Center with PestPack right now. So that is kind of a communication hub. Technicians can click a button and customers can see them on their way. So we're trying to launch
very similar.
that.
Like, Safe Flight is, you'll get the text and you can see on the map where the truck is coming to you.
It's really
wow.
cool.
Yeah,
So there's no really guessing game about it. You know exactly, they're right down the street or they're an hour away.
Yeah,
or
I
whatever
have
it may be.
time to go run, get the kid from school kind of thing. And then we are also, obviously, X-Ray is looking at our calls. We do use Rilla right now they listen to the sales pitches in the house and then analyzes them. So we are currently using that as well. I mean, I use tons of tools within HubSpot for marketing, and I use Tasklet and ChatGPT for marketing all the time. I'm trying to see all the tabs open on my computer that I have that would tell.
Well, I think the other one big coming down to is we're building out Closer Coach, which is an AI role play platform that the sales team will have to go through 2 role play scenarios every morning just to kind of sharpen their skill sets and get them in the right mindset to be able to go out and tackle the day. And the cool thing about this is working with them is you build it all out based on Thomas. So the programs, we use a lot of our Trainual stuff. So they'll kind of cater those role play calls to what it is that we deal with day in and day out.
So you have to program it, though. You have to train it. And
no, so the cool thing about this is, ultimately you pay them to do it, but their team goes in there and builds it all out for you based on the information you give them to get you started. There's also a section in there that's pretty cool too. So if you onboard a new rep, they can go through and go through all the training modules, just say on like our Complete Care every other month program, and then at the end of it, they have to do a practice role play on that. And if they didn't pass it, they have to go back through and relearn the program, and they can't move on to the next skill set until they pass that role play.
What's the sales process like for Thomas? Is the CSR selling? Do they just book an appointment and your sales rep goes out? Does your sales rep quote it and service it? Talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so we probably took a little different approach than most. So we have our dedicated customer service team, and then we have our dedicated inside sales team. So as the call comes in, they have the ability to ask them a series of questions based on what the pest is. They either can go ahead and offer a solution, get them on the books and get them scheduled for service right away, or they can kick it out to an outside inspector. So doing wildlife, still a lot of that stuff goes out. A lot of rodents go out, bed bugs, termites, stuff like that will go out to the outside sales team. So it's hit or miss depending on the call, time of year, what they want to do, how busy the sales team is. If we can't get out there to do an inspection within the next 48 hours, typically we're going to try to offer that right on the phone so that we can get them serviced, unless it's one of those bigger issues or they're requiring an inspection. So we're probably, I'd say 65% outside, 35% inside on our sales.
Are your outside guys as finding their own leads?
Yeah, I wouldn't call them hunters by any means, but some of the more experienced ones that have been doing it a while have a lot of referral sales that come into them directly or through some networking things that they do in a slower time.
How are things broken up between residential, commercial, and wildlife for you guys?
We got separate teams.
70% of what we do is usually some type of recurring and one-time residential, probably 15% commercial, and I guess the rest would be wildlife. So we run two wildlife teams.
So we have two wildlife teams of, so a total of 4 people. And then we have residential and commercial technicians broken out.
Okay. Yeah, the wildlife thing it's a moneymaker. It's just that it's not real traditionally, I guess. But
yeah, it's a tough business to be in. It's it's a lot harder to system a process. Wildlife, because every situation's a little bit different. So you need people that are willing to be on roofs and good with their hands, but also have the ability to critically think through situations a lot more though. So than in pest control where you can systemize it. So we're not trying to blow up wildlife and exclusion. We want to be able to be there to take care of our customers, help people that need it, but really focus on the recurring residential pest control.
Right. We did a little bit of wildlife, and the one thing that kind of got me was like we go set out a trap and we got to send somebody back every day to go check it, and there's nothing in there. We're still charging them, and then they're upset because we didn't get anything, and it's like, it's
where all the headaches come from.
Yeah.
It's not that the team's not great, because I think our team is pretty good at what they do, but it's just a tough business to be in. And when you start getting up into the $3,000-$4,000 for jobs, people have certain expectations of results, and it's hard telling them I can't make that woodchuck get into a cage.
Right. But I still have to charge you for the time.
Wand, we probably would be having this conversation right now.
Right.
Because I'd be on that G650 because I sold so many of those.
So we talked about goals. We talked about the plane. What is your long-term goal? Where are we going to take Thomas Pest Control?
I think it's just keep going. I mean, right now we're having a lot of fun at what we do.
We are.
So I'd really like to finish, building out the territory we're in, start looking at some expansion into other areas of New York, and then possibly out in some other states.
You mentioned Saratoga earlier, right?
Yep.
That's where your new office is located?
It is.
New
So
area?
we already service the area. It's just creating a kind of like a home base, an actual office in Saratoga.
For those North Country techs, it's going to help a little bit on marketing with getting a Google local address up there. I mean, Saratoga, if you're anywhere near here, is a pretty well-known area with the racetrack.
The
we just had the
racetrack,
Belmont a few weeks ago. And it's that territory really reaches probably an hour and a half north of our Albany-based headquarters. So just getting a spot for those northern techs to call home without driving all the way to Albany.
Do your techs take their trucks home?
They do.
Okay.
So when you're trying to expand to an area like Saratoga or eventually get in that area, are you hiring technicians in that area and kind of making a satellite location where that technician has a truck and it's fully loaded and maybe they'll treat around that area until you get enough customers to buy and get an office?
Yeah, I mean, that's the concept, so it's really trying to centralize leadership and then really have these service centers, kind of placed in those areas. Saratoga is a different animal because it's really in the market we started the company in.
Yep.
So we already have a good amount of technicians. So I mean, that when that branch opens, it's already going to have 10 technicians assigned to it that are all running full routes. So this is really trying to get the Google location for us and then making life a little bit easier for them by cutting their commute down so they're not driving an hour and a half just to get some product. So I think there's some efficiency things that we could do with that as well. And then it's just really proof of concept for us that this service center structure will work so that we can start looking at doing that in areas that we're trying to expand into.
Gotcha.
And Saratoga's growing so fast. I mean, I think there's really an opportunity for us to get some additional density in that market.
Yeah.
All
of the above.
It's a really nice area, isn't it? Saratoga?
It is.
Yeah, it's not too far from Lake George.
Nope. It's maybe like 30 minutes. Yeah.
And what about the location you're at right now? Where's that?
So we have really ultimately the service center opening in a week and a half in Saratoga. We have our headquarters in Albany, which we moved into last year. We also have another location down in Hudson, and then another small little location down in Kingston that we'll probably have to be looking to upgrade next year to something bigger as we continue to grow down into the lower Hudson Valley region.
This is a question for you. You have, I don't know, a bunch of trucks on the road. You got these technicians taking their trucks home. One of the things that I think a lot of people sometimes bang their heads at when technicians bring their trucks to the office, and you happen to go say hi to them, and you peek in the truck, and it's a disaster, right?
Were you reading our mind? We had this conversation, I think, an hour ago.
Those are the little things, right? that we want to control and we want to systemize, and we want the lead tech or the manager to do weekly inspections, and it falls through the cracks, and they don't do it, and so just a mess. He can't. How are you guys addressing those things?
Yeah, so I mean, we still have same page meetings with our technicians every other week. So they'll come in, they'll review their metrics, get the products, talk about any issues that are happening with their supervisor. Part of that inspection is we go out there, we do a truck inspection. So not just for cleanliness, but for safety, tires, inspections, lights, everything, make sure everything's working. Things seem to slip through the cracks a little bit in the summer. So Sean and I were just having that conversation. So I think Paul and him are starting to do a few more spot checks where they'll go out there and look at it. Because one of the things I learned a long time is inspect what you expect. So I think we're just doing some of those random inspections of our expectations, and then just making sure that we hold the supervisors accountable to those actions.
Our trucks have a Thomas logo, pretty much the size of the truck, we treat little things like big things, so they are essentially rolling billboards. So I will always compliment a technician when I see their truck, that's shiny or they're cleaning it, because, it's so important not to be, so you can actually read it and it's not, covered in dirt, which is hard in our geographic, because, you can clean the truck and go to your next stop and it's done. But, I always try to preach that they're rolling billboards. People are always watching. So you got to keep that in mind.
Sarah, have you ever fired a technician because their truck was dirty?
No, we haven't done that.
I don't think Sarah's ever fired a technician.
Yeah, luckily. I don't think that would go so well here in New York for us,
Yeah.
have
Have you guys done, you're such a fast-growing business. Have you ever checked out Pest World? Jason and I just actually went the last 2-3 years, and we didn't actually go when we were growing a business, but after going these last 3 years, we talked to each other and we're like, we would have gotten a lot out of it if we actually went to it.
Yeah, we've been to a bunch of Pest Worlds
so many
over the years. When it was in Boston a few years ago, we took the entire supervisor team out to it, so they
that
could
was
see
fun.
that. I try to take them down every year, at least to the Eastern Conference show from National, just to get them some exposure to the industry outside of Thomas. And then I'm pretty big into New York State Pest Management as well, sitting on their board and a few of their committees, which I think selfishly I get to learn from some people as well doing that.
I'm sure people get to learn from you as well, right? You're full of probably awesome experience throughout the years of building Thomas. What are some of the things that keep you up at night? What are some of the stressors that happen, or any big situations you've had to deal with within the last 10 years of growth?
Probably mostly around our people, and are we doing right by our team?
And I also think early on too, the financial aspect, in the Northeast here, we're so seasonally based. So between April, May, being in New Jersey, whenever spring launches, between those months and October, you pretty much have to make your money to hold you over through the winter months. And I think early on, and really honestly till a couple of years ago, that was a huge stressor. But we've really, with a lot of great tools with budgeting, getting right people to assist us, and now having Matt too as our CFO, it's definitely, the pressure's let off a lot. I think it's always going to be there. We talk about it all the time that, we are supporting 74 families. So it's not just, our direct people, but it's their families as well. And that's a huge pressure. So just like Bill said, constantly keeping that in the back of our mind.
Do you have to lay people off in the winter?
We do not.
That's great.
So typically our seasonal routes, we will then transition them over to regular routes, because the routes become larger with sales in the spring and summer. So that's always been our motto. And sometimes you get attrition too at the end of the season. Last year was like the easiest I feel like it ever went. So we're hoping for that again this year.
Yeah, we'll typically maintain 90% of our field staff through winter, 95%.
How do you guys collect payments? Is it quarterly, monthly?
Monthly.
Yeah, we try
Monthly?
to charge everything.
Everything.
Yeah.
So 90% of what we do is all subscription based.
Mm-hmm.
And then, any new sales that come on can't go onto the schedule without a signed agreement or some
Payment
method in advance.
Right, but you do one-offs like, let's say I have bees and I have a nest in a tree. I want you to just come and take that. Would that be like a $300 service charge, and then the technician will try to upsell me on a quarterly service or something?
Yeah, no, typically our technicians aren't doing much
Upsell.
selling. You know, we've tried over the years to get them feeling comfortable with it, and they just don't have that mindset. Like, they want to go out there, they want to take care of that client. You know, we do have a partner in, you know, growth program for them. So if they run into things that they can refer that lead into the office, the sales team will take it, and then we'll pay them a stipend on that lead.
It's crazy to think, though, that they have, it's like low-hanging fruit, easy, you know, incentive to.
Well, the
say,
inside
That's the thing, too,
team
you gotta
will
keep in
take
mind
care
is
of
that
it.
they already have all that rapport with the customer because we're so focused on relationships. So if you know, that technician said to you, "Hey, Mr. Customer, I really think you need to do this," I think his shot of selling that is way better than, you know, sending a sales rep out or on the phone to talk to him about that. That
Absolutely.
trust and rapport is established.
Production-wise, how many jobs a day on average do you guys do?
Our recurring guys are doing anywhere from 8 to 9. So we spend anywhere from 45 minutes to an hour at a stop. I know we're a little different in the fact that we go inside and out year round to really protect the entire structure.
Inside
Yeah.
and out, because I know a lot of people, they'll just do quarterly services. They'll spray the outside of the house, and they only go inside when they need to.
No.
Where's the value? You know, I want to make sure that we could charge a premium, but we give a premium service. And I think getting inside these houses, you know, can be a little challenging sometimes from scheduling, but not too terribly bad. But you're getting people home, and you get that face-to-face interaction. You get that communication with them and that touch point, and that really, I think, leads to
Building relationship.
and
And,
retention of the
and
clients.
the customer is going to say, holy shit, these guys were here. They did a thorough job. They were for 45 minutes to an hour. That's really impressive.
Which is huge. So, you know, things get tight and you got to make some changes, or that door-to-door guy knocks on there and you haven't seen your technician in a year and a half because he just comes, treats you outside, and moves on. You know, I have a better chance of keeping that client because of that touch point relationship than the average person might.
That's a great point.
So I'm going to ask on behalf of my buddy Joey up in northern New Jersey. This is a young kid. He's got this new business called Pest Control. He's got a part-time, semi-part-time employee technician, and he does half a route. He's in the beginning stages of the business. Great guy. He had me and my son up on one of the northern New Jersey lakes bass fishing with my son. Awesome kid. What advice would you give him as a new business owner trying to build out this business? We went last week fishing, and he texted me yesterday saying that unfortunately his appendix just bursted, and he was like a little bummed out about it. And I said, you got to look at this as a positive, and the way I kind of spun it into a positive was it's going to force him to hold his technician more accountable, or replace the guy he has for a better technician and allow him to focus on working on the business versus in the business. In those beginning phases, what type of advice could you offer him as an operator?
I think really lock into the systems and processes of how you things want to go so that it becomes repeatable and scalable. Understanding what your ideal client looks like and really learning how to say no. You know, in the beginning, I think we would take any job that came in because we thought revenue was revenue.
Yep.
But you learn very quickly that not all revenue is good revenue.
Like attic cleanouts. Yeah.
So figure out what it is you want to do, who you want to be, how you want to deliver that service, who your client is, and avoid the rest.
And I think to your point, too, about taking this opportunity as a setback, I always say everything happens for a reason. Even when things are going array and you can't think it, you're like, God, it can't get any worse than it can be right now. I always say everything happens for a reason, and we're going to use this as a learning experience to move on and be bigger and better the next time around. So everything that Bill said and that.
Right. That's great advice. And another piece that Jeremy and I never really had to struggle with, because we built our business while being educators, so we had income, right? The two of you had to make a decision at one point in your life to say, all right, well, we're going to buy this business and we're going to try and build this and pay our mortgage and take care of our kids. And in those moments, it's hard to make financial decisions. How do you coach somebody in those moments when everything that you're doing is like you need to feed your family with?
Yeah, it's tough. I think you really got to have the mindset of I'm willing to live like most won't for a few years so that I can live the rest of my life like most people can't.
That's great. That's good advice.
Don't get me wrong, it was slim. I mean, there was no filet mignon dinners.
Right. And I'm sure you also put in, like, I was putting in, between teaching and coaching and then the meetings and, creating systems. Like, I put in 18-hour days, 16-hour days or so, like, for 3 years, and reinvesting the money back into the business. I didn't have hobbies. I didn't, this was my baby. This was my passion. And this is what we built and grew. So, yeah.
Yeah, but I think there are a few things there. And I think what makes Sarah and I work so well together is we both have that whatever it takes mindset.
Mm-hmm.
So even
figure it
ourselves,
out,
if I need to jump in the truck tomorrow and go spray a house, I got no problem doing it.
You did last year.
That's what is needed to move this thing forward. So I think that's a big one.
I want to know what was going through your mind last year when you had to get in a truck to go service it.
He secretly hated it, loved it.
Yeah, the first couple of days, like, this is great. I'm just out here doing what I know what to do. But we had some cultural issues with a bad leader, and we had some pretty poor retention for a few months, and while trying to build up the team back up it's what was needed. The company.
But those are the stressors. Those are the those stress points I was trying to get to before when I asked you that's a stressful situation in a business that's operating so big, and you have so many people depending on you that and then you have this cultural dynamic situation. But what Sarah's saying, you had to take this, right, look at it through a microscope and figure out how to fix this and prevent it from ever happening again.
And we did, and that's why it's this year. Bill and I just had the conversation yesterday. I was like, are we overstaffed? And he's like, no, you're just comparing it to last year when our hair was literally on fire 24 hours a day. And this year, with an incredible leadership team that we have, developed, everything is just running so smoothly. You're almost like looking and poking for those holes to like, what's not going right? But things are just kind of on autopilot in comparison to last year when Bill was in the field. I was overseeing some customer service stuff because we didn't have people there. We were struggling to hire in general. This year, hiring has been a breeze, even with my sister on maternity leave. Mm-hmm. It's just been a completely 180 this year.
Mm-hmm. But it's always looking at and auditing your systems and processes, making those changes when time permits.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. How do you guys deal with those stressful situations? Like, I'm thinking about, like, with me, like, when we got to the point where when we left, we were doing about $5 million in annual sales. And every time the phone rang, I'm like, is this going to be a bad call? Is this going to be a bad call? And I don't know if it's because we had to handle, like, we had some situations throughout the past that kind of got me to feel that way. But I guess, you guys have, like, short-term memories, and you just kind of fix what you have to fix and you just move on, right? Like, and have that positive mindset.
We're very positive. I mean, I think sometimes in the morning, I'll shoot a message out to the entire team, just like, make today a great day. Not, have a great day, but make it today a great day. And if I'm talking to someone and they're like, oh, it's hot out, I always turn it positive. Well, isn't it better than being -20 and a wind chill today?
I might take -20 today.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
So I think being positive and just trying to not be a negative Nancy is helpful. And I think it's our personality too. I mean,
you speak with a smile on your face. I
know.
That's great.
Unless I forget to put my laundry away, then there's no smile.
Oh, that's a no. You can't do that. If she folded it and put it where you got to put it away. I hear it all the time.
All right. Actually, I'm outnumbered on this one.
I like to see how high I can get the Eiffel Tower. You know what I'm saying?
With the laundry.
Yes.
That's great. Well, listen, Sarah, Bill, you guys are awesome, super impressive. I'm glad I reached out to you on LinkedIn.
Thank you.
You guys have an amazing story. You give back to the communities. And when I was kind of doing my research on you guys reminded me, like Jeremy said earlier, a lot about ourselves, about your core values and how you treat your employees, how you treat your community and your customers. So I have no doubt that, you're growing $1 million months, that's you're probably not very far off of 20 million a year soon. So you keep it going.
Thank
right?
you.
What would that be called? That would be a big rock, or
that's a boulder.
That's a boulder.
Yeah.
Well, let's
get
to 10 first.
Yeah.
You guys are doing this. This was awesome, guys. I know you will be flying that plane that has Thomas Pest Control on it soon enough. So.
I want to see Bill jump through a table. That's what I want to see. Do you
Oh
do that?
gosh, don't tempt him. Don't tempt him. Oh.
Well, we got to get your Jersey boys up to a Bills game if you want to see that.
Actually, we want to come down to MetLife this year with our kids because, believe it or not, MetLife is closer to us than Buffalo. So Bills play the Jets. So I think we're gonna bring the kids down for a day.
Cool. Give us a buzz. We'd love to catch up, and we'll meet you out there. You guys ever been to Jersey Shore?
I have, yeah.
Well, yes, but we're lake people. We have a pontoon boat. We're more lake over ocean people.
Yeah,
I'll
my
be
college
in
roommate,
Lake
though, lives in
George.
Asbury Park.
No, we do not go to Lake George. Actually, my parents live on Sacandaga Lake, which is just like a little west of Lake George. So that's where we go.
Oh, it's beautiful up there. I love it.
Yeah, we
Bill, what
love
were you
it.
saying about Asbury?
So I got my college roommate lives in Asbury Park, so I've been down to the shore a few times.
Oh, it's great down in Asbury. A lot of good restaurants and stuff.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, guys, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.